today changes my whole entire life.
Welcome to Gritability, a podcast about the power of perseverance, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds to attain the life of your dreams. I'm your podcast host, Adam Clausen, and with me in the studio is the beautiful and ever radiant Ro Clausen.
Hey, I'm excited to be back in the studio. I feel like we were just here.
We were just here just a couple of days ago. Well, definitely excited to be here today. Have a good friend with us. Joining us via Zoom, Damonte Stogner. Welcome.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me today.
Man,
glad to be here.
Yes, we are so happy to have you here. So a little bit of background here. We had the opportunity to connect some months ago. I'm not even sure where the first connection was, but now it's like every couple of days. I mean, we're connected and there's all sorts of things intersecting, and it's been my experience, and it's definitely our intention this year to really connect with good people and, focus on making those connections. So I'm grateful, for the connection that we've made to be able to spend this time together, and that you want to come on here and share some of your story, because you are definitely one of those models of success, man. I love your hustle. I love everything that you're doing. And I know people are going to be really excited to hear your story.
Man, I appreciate that. Thanks a lot, Adam. And I'm glad to be here and to have made that connection, to be able to have conversations with you and, not only learn from you, but to begin building. So I'm excited for what's to come.
Awesome. Well, let's dive right into it. And a good place to start is to take it back a little ways, because one of the things that you and I share, and I'm going to say this is like our superpower, right? Like, I know people look at us, either one of us, and they're like, you were in prison? What? Right? Like, we defy those stereotypes. And I know I'm very proud of that. You've been super successful, but the fact is, man, you've got a background. Imagine that. So
yeah,
take us back a little bit. We know the success that you're seeing now, but I want to know where you came from. So give us a little bit of your background, please.
Yeah, man. So I'm originally a Chicago kid, born and raised. I really had my first run-in with the law at 11. I ended up catching a gun case at 11 years old, and I got put on probation, and I was on probation from 11 till I was 22. So I didn't actually get off of probation until August 3rd, 2012, when I got out of jail. So I was on probation from 11 to 22. But in that time, I had moved from Chicago to Iowa, still on probation, and ended up getting another gun case in Iowa City as a youngin', and got sent away, got taken away. So I was in and out of juvenile facilities, juvenile jail, detention centers, shelters, and things like that from my eighth grade year, all the way up to my sophomore year. And then finding wrestling is what really, helped me steer clear of trouble until after my senior year. I really liked the identity that I got from wrestling. I really liked who I became. I really liked winning, being an individual who was in control of his own destiny. And so that kept me out of trouble I did get in trouble one time, but the wrestling coaches vouched for me and the football coaches. So I didn't have to go to jail, but I did get put on probation. But I was only on probation until my senior year. So I got off my senior year and then got put right back on that summer. And so, yeah, man, I would say, I come from a pretty, I wouldn't say super troubling past, but I've made some decisions that cost me some time and cost me some opportunities. But I think those are the things that's made me resilient today. One of the stories I like to share is being in detention. And I was a goofball as a youngin', but being in detention, I guess it was like against the rules to be laughing excessively. And this was my first experience being locked down, because I was just laughing so much. And I was sent to lockdown. I think I was locked down in there for about 45 minutes to an hour, so not very long. But I just stood up and looked in the mirror and was like, man, I know I won't be in here forever. So, it's okay. I'm not gonna panic. I'm not gonna freak out. Like I know this won't last forever. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. So I think that little piece right there just kind of, started giving me probably the helping me build the resilience and experience that I needed to go forward, because there were many other experiences that would come where I had to, practice being resilient to make it through those situations.
I love that. One of the common themes that I have seen in so many successful people, especially that come out of prison, my background as well, is having that foundation in athletics, right? Like that personal pursuit, knowing how to push yourself physically or having to push yourself physically to build that mental fortitude. And it sounds like you had a pretty good foundation. The fact that you could laugh through lockdown, right? Excessively laugh through lockdown.
I mean, I couldn't stop laughing. I literally couldn't stop laughing. But the thing was, the kid. So in detention, you get to pay for it. So regular stuff you do every day, in juvenile detention, you actually get points for it. So brushing your teeth, making your bed, cleaning your room, going to class, like everything you do that you're supposed to do, if you do it, you get points for it. If you do it on time and you do it without being prompted, they give you extra points. So like this was like, I was like, man, this is a win-win for me. I'm walking around cleaning up extra. I'm doing all the extras. I got all the points. And this one kid, this one brother that was there, he loved to play Zelda. I mean, this kid would do anything to play Zelda on Nintendo 64. So he would literally get his points. And at this time, I'm buying like Bennigan's, Burger King, McDonald's. Like you can get staff to get you food from outside and bring it in. This dude is spending 300-400 points a day on Zelda. On Zelda. So he was playing it so much that I said he started to look like Zelda. Well, it just turned into this huge joke. All the kids were laughing. I just kept going on and on and on about it. Staff finally was like, "Hey, cut it out." I couldn't stop at that point. Like it was way past no return. And so yeah, I got locked down for it, but it was what it was.
Locked down for laughing.
Yep, locked down for laughing. Lynn County Detention Center, Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Shout out to whoever that was that locked you down for laughing. Man,
it was Swole Dan. It was Swole Dan. It was the guy that got me the guy that ever got me to first do 100 push-ups in a row.
Really?
Guy named Swole Dan. Yep, we sat at the table all day and we'd play gin rummy and we'd play for push-ups. And anytime he'd lose, he'd get down and do his push-ups. Anytime I'd lose, I'd get down and do mine. But me and Dan had a really good relationship, because anything that I wanted outside, like they knew I had really serious charges when I came to Lane County. Like I was charged with intimidation with a dangerous weapon. That was my second charge, was intimidation with a dangerous weapon. My first charge was assault causing bodily injury. The kid ended up getting like a pretty bad damage to the back of his head and neck from a fight that we had got into that's when we first came to Iowa, when I first got locked up, while I was already on probation from Illinois. But yeah, Dan knew I had some pretty serious charges. He always, kind of talked to me and told me, he kept telling me he knew I was a good kid, even though like sometimes in my head I didn't think I was a good kid at times. But he would always tell me like, man, I know you're a good kid. I know you're a great kid, man. You just got to use your head, man. Think. And so we developed a really good relationship. But before that, yeah, Dan locked me down, man. Dan, shout out to Dan, man, for locking me down.
Well, Swole Dan sounds like, he was one of those people. There are people within our system who genuinely do care, who are there, to offer that support. And it sounds like that's what he turned out, or what he became, was an advocate for you. Was looking out for you, giving you that positive reinforcement, especially as youth, man. That's something we definitely need. So yeah, definitely shout out to Swole Dan. So tell us, how do you eventually get out of there and keep moving forward?
So I finally so they wouldn't let me go until, because it was still like a huge investigation. They were still trying to find the gun. So long story short, there was a gun that a girl ran and told that there was someone on the bus with a gun. There was someone on the bus with the gun, but I didn't have the gun out like pointing it at anybody. I was really just showing my boy Michael Holt like, hey, look, I'm holding. Being dumb, trying to show it off. I don't know what I was thinking, but one of the cheerleader girls seen it. She went and told staff. They called the police. Everybody came real fast. But I didn't even know that she told on me. So I was walking. I'm just walking to the house, and there's cops flying everywhere. Like, I was like, oh man, somebody's in trouble. Somebody's gonna, they're going down. Like, whoever did whatever, like, they're going down. The whole time they're headed to my house. Like,
Oh
they
God.
raided my house. Yeah, they had they had shotguns on me, they had guns on me, like they had guns on my parents. It was a really bad experience. My dad lost his job. My dad had a really good job at Procter and Gamble. He lost his job.
No.
Um, yeah, yeah, it was a really bad experience for my family. Um,
Oh
I
man. I'm sorry to
yeah,
hear that. I didn't know any of this part. So how does your
yeah.
family respond to this?
My dad got a lawyer. They got a lawyer because the police end up just coming into our house without permission. Like they didn't even, they just came in based on, I guess, prior knowledge. My dad ended up getting a lawyer because they was charging my dad with assault, and like they was trying to charge him with like a slew of, like interfering with an official investigation, assault on a peace officer, assault causing bodily injury. Because they were like into a like real tussle. Like when they came in, my dad like slammed the door back on them. So one person got like smashed in the door, and now they're like reaching in, trying to grab him. He's fighting back. Like it was a real brawl,
Yeah.
essentially. Um, but end up getting a lawyer, and they like dropped all the charges on my dad. So obviously he didn't get any charges or anything like that. But I was facing the charges I was facing, and
And
they
you lost.
finally end up find they finally end up finding the gun. One of the kids I was running with finally end up coming forward, giving them the gun. Went to trial. They put me on the stand, kept calling me a monster. And then they was bringing up the fight from the school because I had gotten the fight at the same school that I had the gun at. So they was trying to make it seem like, I don't know, maybe I was going to shoot somebody at school. So I don't know. Um, but yeah, it was a
Well, let me stay
traumatic
with that for yeah,
experience.
I definitely traumatic, and
Yeah.
not just for you, for your family, your father had charges, he ultimately lost his job. What was the connection? What was the reason for bringing a gun to school?
So I had got into so my first trouble that I got into in Iowa. So right when we left Chicago, my dad's car had got shot up. We had bullets flying through the windows. And so and all I kept hearing about Iowa was just it's a bunch of racist white people. It's a bunch of racist white people. So me knowing that, I brought the gun with me from Chicago. I brought it with for protection. Not knowing what we were coming to. I had never been outside of Chicago prior to that, so I had it with me. And then so the first fight I got into, obviously the kid that I was fighting, he was claiming a different gang than what I was claiming or supposedly to be from. Um, and so it kind of turned into a situation where, after I had beat that kid up now, like they was coming at me and rose because I didn't get arrested for the fight until like a week. They made me turn myself in a week later. They were still doing an investigation. The kid was still in the hospital. And then like a week later, they made me turn myself in. But prior to that, things just started to escalate, to a point where I felt like I needed to protect myself.
Mm, that's sad, man. Especially, I mean, things have definitely changed a lot. This is what year?
This is 2004, 2003, 2004. It's '04.
Okay.
Yeah, it's '04.
So yeah, they take guns at school pretty serious. Even back in '04, but
Oh, it was on national news. It was all over the newspapers. It was
really,
like it was crazy. They're bringing me to court with I had the shackles around my waist, they was around my waist and on my wrist, cuffed to my waist, and they was on my legs.
man, I wish I could have had you with me last night because here locally, through one of the programs that they have, the Dream program, there's a whole group of at-risk youth, and we had a meeting there with the youth and their parents, and it's tough to get through to young people, and because you have a different perception when you're that age. You're like, that's never going to happen to me. And one of those young men had recently gotten caught with a firearm in school, so they had him on. He's on probation or temporary release while his case is being resolved. And man, it would have been really good to hear from someone who had that same experience. Um, just to kind of let them know, man, it's just a tough road to go down. It doesn't lead any place good. So,
It doesn't. It doesn't. And the thing is, Adam, I had so many people in my corner, trying to drag me this way, drag me that way. Hey, you gotta do this the right way. You gotta do that the right way. And I just didn't want to listen. I thought I was the toughest guy walking. I thought I could have all the girlfriends. Nobody could tell me nothing. And look where it landed me. I ended up losing 2.5 years of my life in, juvenile detention and shelters and juvenile prison
well,
for not listening.
and here's the interesting thing, like acknowledging that you had these things going, man, you were an athlete, you're intelligent, you had support, you had all these things going for you, yet you still ended up in that situation, but somehow you came out the other side. Like you made it, you
Man,
broke out of that
like
cycle. How'd you break free?
like I said, man, I only broke free for a small period of time until now. Like wrestling kept me out of trouble through my senior year. I wasn't in jail like my sophomore, junior, or senior year. And that was the thing. That's what my life would like be measured by. Like me and my cousin, I'm like, oh, I wasn't in jail none this year. Or I wasn't in jail for my birthday or
Oh,
or Christmas or because I got a lot of cousins that's like that. Like when we come together, it's like, oh man, what y'all was on last Christmas, or I was locked up for the B day, and so my sophomore, junior, and senior year was like the first time like I had 3 years in a row where I didn't go to jail and didn't get in trouble. But that was due to me wrestling. I had been wrestling all over the state of Iowa, pretty much kind of all over the country. So I was getting to travel. I was seeing things a little differently. And it got me and afforded me the opportunity to wrestle in college. To pursue my post secondary education. And so I would say that kept me out of trouble for a little bit. But then when I got to college,
so
it got worse.
where'd you go to school? Where'd you end up going to school?
So I started out at Ellsworth Community College up in Iowa Falls, Iowa. I started out there. I was a really great student. Like a lot of my teachers, like even my professors that I talk to today, they'll tell you like Damonte was a great student when I was there. Um, but a lot of the time didn't show up. Now by this time, by the time I was in college, now a lot had changed. I was living I had like my own apartment, living on my own, so I was just doing things differently, taking more risks, took a lot more risks, and it wound up costing me. It wound up costing me. And it wound up costing me a scholarship. It wound up costing me a opportunity to wrestle at the D1 level at UNI. I had the police coming to practice looking for me,
Mm.
coming to all of my friends' house looking for me. I got Coach Swab, calling, hey, you got to get this taken care of. We got cops showing up to practice. What's going on, Damonte? Um, so yeah, man, I lost a lot of opportunities, from the decisions I made my first time. But I got two college experiences. I got to go to college right out of high school, and then I got to go to college post incarceration. So Um,
So
yeah, that first.
what was college like post incarceration? Did you have a different appreciation for it?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So while I was locked up, the only thing I would look out the window, and there was a many of things that I could have been doing during that time, at that time, but God knew my heart, and I said, and I would say to God every single time, I said, if I got the opportunity to get out of here, I just want to go back to school, because prior to that, that was the only thing that was really something to me. Everything else, the drugs, the money, the cars, all that stuff, like that stuff was nothing. Like the only thing that I really wish I could get back was that mat time and that classroom time. That's all I wanted. And so I was praying for days where I could get back on the mat and get in the classroom. That's all I wanted. I didn't want nothing else. I didn't care about nothing else. I just wanted to get back on the mat and get in the classroom. And God gave me that opportunity. So when He gave me that opportunity, um, I took it and ran with it. I sat in the front of the classroom. I would show up to class every day. I would speak. I would help others. I would volunteer. I'd get my homework done. Um, I would do everything that it took to be successful in class. That this is.
So what flipped that switch? Like what changed at what point? Do you remember when that was?
I wrote down some goals. So when I got locked up, I wrote down some goals. My whole body changed, my mind, my body, everything changed. I went into jail. I weighed about 247, 248. When I got out, I was 167 pounds. So I planned on wrestling at 174. Um, I had written down some goals. I said I was gonna. So everything that I'm doing right now, minus the coffee farm, is written down, and I can share those as well. But those were written back in July of 2012. One of them was to start a reentry program to help folks work on, reintegrating themselves back into society. One was to go to school and finish college. One was to go to school and win a national title. Um, One was to go to school and get my law degree and become a lawyer. I didn't do that,
So
in pursuit of some other things,
so
but
so tell us what you have accomplished, because if if you've accomplished those things, I don't want to just like gloss right over that. We need to talk about that for a minute. What have you accomplished on that list?
yeah, no. So I went back and graduated after being down. So I was denied getting in school 3 times in a row at Grandview University because when I got locked up, the first time I got locked up, I was locked up for like a month and some days. And so I flunked an entire semester of classes, which was 14 credits. So that was, I think it was 6 Fs. And so I get out, and me trying to call myself beating the system, I say I'm gonna enroll again in those same classes, and hopefully the judge will be like, "Oh, you're back in school. We're not gonna lock you up." Nah, that's not what happened. They locked me up, and so I didn't. I failed another semester of 14 credits.
Oh,
So I failed 28 credits in a row. So that dropped my GPA down to like a 0.2 something. So I had to go to community college for 2 years to get my GPA up, but I ended up getting it up to like a 1.7. And I tried to get into Grandview with like a 1.7. They said no. Well, the first time I tried to get in, I tried to get in with a 1.5 on probation. They said no. Came back the next semester with a 1.7. They said no. Came back the following semester with like a 1.95. They said no. And finally, the fourth semester, which was that January, I was coming in. I had really dominated. Like I was now by this time, I was really like dominating the books. It was my first ever 4.0, and it was a 4.0 in my science lab, my statistics class, um, my science, my statistics. Oh, that was a tough. I had two other classes that I had failed previously at the JUCO level. So me getting those classes and acing those classes, it shot my GPA up to like I think I ended up leaving with like a 3.1. So I ended up gaining like one and like almost 1.25, 1.25 points on top of my previous GPA. So I bumped up. I was able to get in Grandview, and the rest is pretty much history from there. I was really determined. And I told myself when I got out though, like when I walked out those doors, I was like, I'm getting in school. I'm gonna go and graduate. I'm gonna get my degree. Um, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but I'm gonna get my degree. I'm gonna go back to school and I'm gonna get my degree because ultimately that's the only way I could win a national title. I had to be in school and my grades had to be good in order for me to compete.
So tell us about that title.
Man, what a journey. Being in that cell, I think what really got me through my time in that cell was knowing that, I was gonna go compete. I knew that once I got out of there, I was gonna compete. So during the lockdown, so Black Hawk County, you got about 9 lockdowns. There's 9 lockdowns in the day, and so every lockdown was
Nine lockdowns every day.
yeah, 9. We
What
had
is it for a
9,
count?
and yep, 9 for the count. And we do like 45 minutes. There'll be like 45 minutes to 1 hour. So every time, so my cell, everybody around there used to call my cell the hyperbolic time chamber. Because I was the only person that was really changing before everybody's eyes. Like, cause I was fasting during the day all day, and then I'm doing 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups, 1,000 dips. I'm doing 1,000 everything, and people literally walk past my room and see it. So like, man, you in a hyperbolic time chamber, man. You in there going crazy. You Goku. They used to call me Goku. They like, oh, look at Goku here in there going crazy. Goku walking on his hands, like Goku going crazy. Um, and so, but I would use those lockdowns as my training time. So anytime when I was in my room, I was working out the whole time until the door popped. So when everybody else I got a story for y'all, but before I get to that, I use that time like every time I would lock down, it was time to work out. So I'm getting 9 workouts in a day, 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 dips, 1,000 sit-ups, 1,000 everything. Just really getting to it. Got a great routine going. So I look forward to the lockdowns because my downtime is when the doors pop. When everybody out chilling, that's my downtime. That's when I'm not working out. But when I'm in a room and we lock down, I'm working out the whole entire time. And so when I was doing that, I knew who the number one ranked kid in America was at the time. His name was Christian Mays, good brother, still a great friend of mine. So Christian, when you see this and hear this, hey, I said you're still a good guy. But anyway, I knew who Mays was, and I knew he was really good. He was ranked number one in the country at the time, and I knew he couldn't do what I was doing. I was surviving in Black Hawk County. I was surviving in there with guys that I had previously robbed. There were some things that I knew I was going through that I knew was like it was a magical that time that I did was a magical time, and I knew it and I understood it. I took heed to it. And so, I knew I beat Mays in the cell. I beat Mays before I ever stepped on the mat with him because I was that was the focus. That was the focus in the cell. I knew he couldn't do what I was doing. I could do what he was doing because I did it already. I was just ranked number 2 in the country in JUCOs. I had just came off a national tournament selling pounds of weed and trying to wrestle. I had just did that, so I knew I could do what he was doing, but he couldn't do what I was doing. He couldn't survive in my shoes. And me knowing that, I knew I could win. I knew that was there ain't no beating me. There ain't no beating me because I can beat him mentally, well before I beat him physically. And so that was kind of my edge, because I'm this 25-year-old jailbird per se coming back, and then I'm coming a perennial powerhouse Grandview. So it's a big story. Everybody's like, man, Damonte's coming back to wrestle. He's down from 197 pounds to 84. Is he gonna beat out Mays? What type of question is that? Yes, I'm gonna beat out Mays. And so
Yes. So tell us, man, what was it like to finally beat him? Tell us about that time on the mat.
to be honest, man, it was like nothing. It was, afterward, because I had a good buddy of mine who we used to sneak off and we used to sneak off and smoke and chill out after practice and stuff like that. And so, he'd always talk to me about, my struggle from, being incarcerated to being on a team and how the guys on the team looked at me differently because I was a lot older than everybody on the team. I was 25 years old when a lot of these guys are, 18-year-olds, 19, 19, 18, 17, 18, 19-year-olds. I'm 25 years old coming back. And at NAI, it's just a dog eat dog world. So like you can be the guy one day, but if you get beat by somebody else on the team at your weight, now they the guy. So I always had guys like looking at me different. It was always a different situation. But to get that win, and then afterwards, it really felt like nothing. I knew because I already knew it though, and that's what me and my boy B talk about all the time. Like I already knew I was gonna win because I knew I was winning when I was doing thousands of push-ups and thousands of sit-ups. Like you're not doing that. They gotta call your phone probably to have you come into practice. Like you're not doing what I'm doing. And so me knowing and understanding that it was no surprise to me that I could win. It was a really close match. It was a 3-2. I think it's still on YouTube. It was a 3-2 match. Um, but I knew I was gonna win. I just knew it, and based on what I had been through in life and the trajectory of where I was going, I knew I was gonna win that match. That was
That was
that was
clearly
it.
a
Yeah,
defining
yeah,
moment. I love the fact that you knew even before you went in there.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
knew you
yeah.
had it because you had seen it happen so many times. And we talk about gritability. And for individuals who've been to those places where we've been, like gone through those sorts of personal challenges, come out the other side stronger, more resilient, and you came out winning. I love it, man. Those are the stories. We love comeback stories. And that's not just the comeback, like, that's just one small part. So
Yeah, that's just a small part, man.
you
It ain't.
graduated, you won the national championship. Man, like, okay, so take us forward. How do you end up in business? How do you end up?
So after I graduate, man, I think I'm on top of the world. I get offered this great job at a really great company. I get appointed to the governor's reentry roundtable here in Iowa that I'm still a part of actually. Um, and that leads me that's what really opened up my networking. I would say like right after I graduated, I had a judge. So let me take it back. So after I graduated, well, right before I graduated, I had met a judge. Um, and this was probably this like my introduction into networking. So we're at an event, and this big, huge tall guy walks in, and this girl next to me, she's like freaking out. She's like, oh my God, there's Judge Witt. And I'm just listening, but I'm hearing the way that they're talking about this guy. And the way that they're talking about him is like, he was on the last episode of Girls Rule the World or something. It was something crazy that everybody's talking about. So when I saw that, I'm like, well, let me go over here. If he a judge, he needs to know who I am. So I went over, introduced myself, told him who I was. My name Damonte Stogner. I'm about to graduate. I would love to come and have a more in-depth conversation with you. Um, yeah, he gave me his card, told me to reach out to him. I did. I reached out to him, told him, I want to have a more in-depth conversation when I talked to him, and just kind of told him about, some of my plans. And he offered me an internship. That
Wow.
internship, that internship changed my life. I got to tell my story to the Judges Association, to the not criminal defense lawyers, but the prosecutors, like the State Prosecutors Association. Like I got to just go. He like started taking me to a lot of places to just tell my story. Helped me out a lot. Helped me get my license back. Like literally helped me pay for my license and helped me get them back. The guy was, I mean, rest his soul. He ended up passing away while we was working on a really big project together. Um, but Judge Witt was very instrumental in just shaping my oh man, I think I haven't thought about this for a while. So it's kind of man, it just touched me a little bit that I wasn't
Man.
expecting. But Judge Wood was a very integral part in some of the connections, that I have today. So, rest his soul. Rest just with soul.
Imagine that.
Oh man,
The
man,
time you've
that's
spent
crazy.
in the system, in and out of the system, and it was a judge ultimately that was so instrumental in you having the success that you now have. That's pretty amazing.
Yep, yep. Judge Whit, the man, the man. Oh man. Oh wow. We would just sit, some days and talk for 2 3 hours. I was the last person. So when it came to his last days, he knew he was dying of lymphoma cancer.
Mm.
Um, when it came to his last days, he said no one could come and visit him. So they wouldn't let any of the drug court staff in there. They wouldn't let, I mean, his wife they wouldn't let anybody in there. I got to spend the last hour of Judge Witt's life with him. And he was so upbeat and so ready and so strong, even though he knew what was going on, and he knew that was his time. He knew it. The way he was talking to me and, telling me to remain active and present, he knew that was his time, but he was so strong and, just so resilient in that time and in that moment. And I got to spend that time with him. Um, and I think I never really thought about it, but from that time was when I really started to really go hard on nonprofits, nonprofits doing what they say and saying what they do. Um, and really just began to focus on the work that needed to be done. I think that's how my network and my opportunity started to grow. I started to meet with a lot of folks, just trying to figure out, how this system works. How do we do certain things, and just asking the right questions. And I think it led to a lot of relationship building, a lot of opportunities. One opportunity led to another, which lead me to um, leading a federal funded program, raising $3.5 million. I ended up getting a United Bank of Switzerland Outstanding Achievement Award from the United Bank of Switzerland for the work that myself and the team that I led did. Because it wasn't just all myself. There was a team of us, but we did some really great work and started a federally funded program called CIRCA, Central Iowa Returning Citizens Achieve, that was working in all 9 institutions here in the state. And then we'd get those guys, set up with their certifications and set up with employment prior to them leaving the facilities. So that way, when they come out, they're more on track to be successful upon return. So I ran that program for about 2 years. Um, then ended up getting a contract with the Department of Corrections. So I left that. I left that job. Well, there was some other things going on with that job too that led me to purchasing a coffee farm and starting coffee for a cause.
Wait.
Um,
Don't just breeze by that. You bought a coffee farm.
yep. I purchased a coffee farm. Yep, with my partner Walt Suarez. Shout out Vic Walt.
How
Yeah,
how
we
does how does one buy a coffee farm? How does that happen?
you got everybody knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. So, so you just gotta know who you know.
Yep.
No, man, it really just came off of a conversation. So me and Walt had been talking. So he tried to get me to come out there. This was probably like
And,
this is '07,
and where's
'06.
where's out there?
This in Guatemala, because his family's from Guatemala. So this in like '07, '06. Walt like,
So this isn't
we
down
should.
south. This is way down south.
Yeah, this like out the country. It's in
Yeah.
Guatemala. It's in Guatemala. And at that time, I'm still focused on wrestling. I'm still focused on running the streets. I don't got time to, like, you talking about some coffee, bro. I don't even know nothing about coffee. Like, stop talking to me. And so we just never spoke on it again. Well, one day we was in a sauna. Now I'd speak to Walt Air once in a while, like we'd hit each other up on Facebook or something like that, or maybe see each other out, maybe once in a while, but nothing serious. And one day I was in the sauna, and he just came in there. He's like, bro, it was you. It was you. He kept saying it was you. It was you. And I'm like, what is he talking about? He was like, bro, it was this guy in here talking about, man, it's this crazy Grandview wrestler in here. He's doing an hour in a sauna with a whole plate, and he's got all his sweats on. Like, the guy is crazy. The guy is crazy. He's like, it was you. It was you. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm the only person. He's like, bro, dude is like crazy. Dude is like crazy scared of you. He think you crazy. He think you, because you're working out for an hour in the sauna, he think you crazy. So we just got to talking. And that conversation really turned into like, man, what are we finna do around it? Because this was the pandemic. He's like, man, what are you gonna do? And I was like, bro, I got some money. I've been thinking about doing a real estate thing. I've been thinking about. Oh, I had also. So and I'm glad I didn't do it. I had started a company called Quick Ride. So I already had a van. I was going to buy another. So I was giving rides to people coming out of jail. Give them $10 a day. So $10 could get you from your doorstep to your job, from your job back to your doorstep. And I started out with my Toyota RAV4. Then I had like 8 people. So then I had to go and buy a van. So I went and bought the van. We moving, that's moving. The pandemic, we going to like another phase of the lockdown where they're like closing down more than just like essential need places. So now I got a van, don't know what to do with it, can't sell it. My man, I don't know what to do. So I'm hollering at Walmart. I'm like, bro, I got some bread. I might need to get one of them. Because instead of a van, I wanted one of those large transportation buses where I can just hire a CDL driver and pick people up from the different station points where I had lined up. Well, like, man, my uncle's selling 18 acres. What's up? I said, I said, what's up? Like, what you trying to do? Um, I got in some trouble for it. My wife just came down the stairs. I got in some trouble for for cashing out my 401k and making that purchase.
You cashed out your 401k to go buy 18 acres of coffee plantation in Guatemala.
Yep.
That sounds like it might be a little risky.
Yeah, me and my wife talking about my daughter being high risk, and we wonder where she get it from.
Well, clearly it's worked out. So tell us a little bit about the coffee. Where things at now? Yes. Tell us about it.
So no, so initially, Coffee for a Call started out as we just got mobile units. We got mobile coffee truck that we're gonna run as workforce development centers. So one day it was after our meeting, our reentry task force meeting. I'm like, hey, Governor Reynolds, who do I talk to about getting a coffee in all the like state buildings, all the state institution buildings where the workers at? She's like, oh, that's a Dan Clark question. So she thinking that I'm talking about the jails, but I'm talking about the offices where like every state office, like where there's employees, like I want the coffee to be that in that office. So I get an email from Dan Clark, like, hey, let's set up a time to meet. I'd love to, hear more about your story. So I take some bags of coffee down there. He's like, we can't have, like, we don't have coffee machines in jail. Like it's not gonna work. Like he's like, if you get yourself, he's like, you gotta figure something out. He's like, if you can get it in like single serve form or something, instant, whatever, like I'll support you. And so I ended up finding a company out of Santa Clara, California. We end up sending a container to them, and they end up putting our coffee in these little nitro sealed hemp bags. So they're like it's like a tea bag, but it's coffee, and it's real coffee. It's fresh ground coffee. It's real coffee. All you need to do is just dump it in a cup of hot water, and you got a fresh cup of brewed coffee. So that was our first contract for Iowa Prison Industries. We get that done. That process took about 4 weeks for them to get them all packaged up and sent back out here. Get them over to IPI. Dan Clark invites us down. Well, invited me down to come to the showroom. He's like, "Man, you can come see your product as well." So I get down there. I kid you not, there is probably a million packs of noodles stacked high to the ceiling, like just all ramen noodles, just everywhere. Chips, deodorant, like this huge, probably 3 acre warehouse full of just none but food and products. And Dan Clark puts his arm around me as we're walking out. He's like, "Man, get yourself some products, man, whatever you can get a hold of. I love what you're doing. We're gonna support you." And
Wow.
so
Wow.
I already had a relationship with the CEO of Rap Snacks because I had went out and met Jay Z and the Reform Alliance team when they was putting together the Reform. So I'm like, all right. So I reach out to James Lindsay, kind of let him know what's going on. He hit me back like, "Are we gonna support you?" So he sent me the pallets of the chips and the noodles. So now I'm on deck with the regular coffee pouches, the potato chips and the noodles. Then I shoot up to Cedar Falls and I go and meet the Black Hawk. Well, first I went to UNI to go and do a reentry simulation. Left there, I was like, why don't I just go stop over at Black Hawk County Jail and just let Sheriff Tony Thompson know what I'm doing. That conversation led to us being the keynote speakers at the Iowa Sheriff's Association. When we came and did that, that opportunity led to us getting into the instant coffee game. We met a partner. We met a partner who was trying to develop. They was already looking to develop they coffee business. We already had the plug in the coffee game. We had a conversation. So that's really how we got started in the instant coffee. He kept telling us, he was like, "Yeah, they say you're not a big dog unless you're in the instant coffee game. Those guys are doing a lot with the instant coffee." And when I heard that, I was like, "Walt, we gotta we gotta get an instant coffee." So Walt ended up going, he ended up flying down. He ended up meeting with the district, well, not the district, the general manager of Kefever, and he liked what we was doing. He was like, "Oh man, for real? Like y'all doing it with the prisons?" And we ended up getting the right numbers on the instant coffee. And I reached out to Dan Clark because I told him, I was like, "Man, I want to try and set up a meeting with Indiana." He ended up reaching out because he knew the Indiana Prison Industries director. He ended up reaching out to her. She ended up reaching out to us, inviting us out. We end up getting a partnership with them, end up getting a coffee over to them. That partnership turned into a partnership with the National Correctional Industries Association. So then we get access to all the prisons, the feds, core civic, just man, just this network just don't stop growing. And it's so much more that's going on. I just don't talk about it, but it's just it really is a lot.
It's
And
a
I make it seem like it's not a lot because I've planted so many seeds and now they're starting to like bear fruit. So I don't gotta go back and put in the groundwork,
you
on a project or
you already did the work.
yeah, I've done a lot of work to get to here right now. But like it's easy, but it wasn't easy getting here. But it's easier now because I'll put the work in to get here.
And
If it makes sense.
I would suggest that it all started back in that cell.
It did. It did. It did. It did. It did. I think a lot of my appreciation right now for life, a lot of my appreciation right now for others, a lot of my appreciation period, comes from that time that I was forced to spend by myself and have to get through it and come out on the other end of it okay. I have a I just had a really great I had a really great weekend with my brother. My brother did some traveling with me uh this past weekend. We were gone and we had some really great conversation and I'm gonna be honest, Adam, that was the most time I've spent with my brother in my entire life.
Wow.
My brother has been locked up for 5, 6, 14. So he did about 13, 14 years total sporadically.
Yeah.
Um, but moved out the house at an early age. So our relationship wasn't as we've always had a strong relationship, but it wasn't as strong as it could have been. And this weekend we just got to spend a lot of time together. You know, my brother, we was trading war stories. You know, he was telling me about some of the stories about being on count and some of the things that was going on down in Stateville and Pinckneyville in Illinois and some of the gang violence and all these things. And so man, I knew, and I know my situation is unique, and I think that's why I'm allowed to do what I'm doing because I got something. I guess I have something to bring to the table. I don't know, but I there's just something watching over me, and that just keeps putting me in the right place at the right time. It seems like every time something like my brother even asked me, like, bro, is this really for real? Like, because this was like I said, Adam, this was the first time I spent 5 days in a row with my brother.
Yeah.
And in 5 days, I probably got like 7 or 8 emails, and they're all different opportunities. And I'm showing them each one of them, like, oh shit, bro, we out in excuse my language, I'm sorry. I'm like, bro, we're out in Pennsylvania at the end of April. He's like, man, how like you just wake up to opportunities like this? I'm like, yeah, because I put the work in. Like I didn't have so many conversations, man. Now they see what time it is. It's like, hey, it's time to go.
Man, you've done the work, and listen, your success, none of this is by chance. You've put in that work, you've persevered. Like you said, you laid the groundwork, over the years, and now it's all coming to fruition. I am so grateful to have been able to connect with you, to get, I see glimpses of all these things coming through. And man, like I hear the joy in your voice. I can see the smile on your face because I can see it right now, but I hear it every time we talk. And honestly, that is something that I am so drawn to. Like I said, it's your energy, it's your drive. No doubt good things are going to continue to happen. And I'm really looking forward to being just a small part of that in some of these upcoming simulations that we have. And we got to get out of here in just a minute, but I want to let people know that you're coming here to Vegas in the very near future. We're shooting for April to do one of these amazing prison and reentry simulations that you run that are experiential, that help shift people's perception on what it means to be incarcerated and to have to transition back into the community. And I'm excited to do that with all of our key officials, stakeholders, influencers right here in Las Vegas. It's going to be an amazing event. And I can't wait for us to be able to finally connect in person.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome, man. If y'all are listening and y'all are watching, you don't want to miss that either. It's gonna be big.
Absolutely not. So, Damonte Stogner, we got your info up there. Coffee for a Cause. Everybody can see you on Instagram. You mentioned there's a YouTube video of you winning the state championship, so go look that up as well. And listen, you're going to be out here soon. When you come out here, we'd love to have you come in the studio, spend some time.
Oh, I definitely got to come in.
We're gonna do it right here, and I think we'll bring some other people in too. We'll definitely have a good time when everybody's out here in Vegas. We appreciate you coming on today. Appreciate everything that you're doing to contribute, to give back, to create opportunities for other. You've got an amazing story, and you've got an incredible future ahead of you. So happy to have met you, and looking forward to whatever comes next. It's been another incredible episode of Gritability, power of perseverance, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds to attain the life of your dreams. Damonte Stogner, thank you. We'll catch you back here on the next episode of Gritability.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot.
Man, we appreciate you. That was amazing. You took